Okay, we'll get started here in just a moment. Okay. My dog was whining, so I had to let him out. All right. It is 9:30. I'm gonna go ahead and let everybody in if we're good to go.
Let's do it.
All right, here they come. All right, hi everyone. We're gonna give it probably a minute just in case we have any last minute people joining us. So we'll start here in just a second. All right, I think everyone is in from the waiting room. So we can go ahead and get started. So welcome, thank you guys for joining us for the Roundtable industry group. It's a very, very cold January morning, so hopefully you're all staying warm. I'm gonna give a couple of reminders before we jump into the call. Just a reminder, this is a roundtable call, so it is for our stakeholders. It's your time to ask us questions. We will provide a few updates. They will not take us very long. But after that, we'll open it up for Q&A. So you'll be able to ask anything that's on your mind, any questions that you've got. Pretty much the entire CBO staff is on the call, so we can answer all your questions. Sorry, before I do that, we will hold questions until after we give all of our updates. So just hang tight and then we'll let you know when it's time to take questions. But to get started, I'm going to hand it to Paige for some legislative updates.
All right, thank you, Lauren. Hi, my name is Paige Osman. I'm a Senior Policy Advisor with Government Affairs OIT's team. And we are expecting, or we expected, and we got 3 introduced bills for wireless telecommunication. These all came from the Cell Phone Interim Study Committee. The first one is SB 2531. That is the Single Point of Contact Wireless Services bill. This bill has been assigned to the Senate Business, Labor, and Technology Committee, and it has been scheduled for January 28th at 2 p.m. There is a link to the audio if you would like to listen in on that. So this bill does expand the scope of the CBO to also include certain tasks and duties related to wireless services. And this bill is the same as the one introduced in the Cell Phone Interim Committee. And OIT did take a neutral position on this bill. And we will keep you posted on our pending position for the introduced bill soon. We'll release that. The next bill is the HB 251056. This is the Local Government Permitting Wireless Telecommunication Facilities Bill. So this bill has been assigned to the Transportation, Housing, and Local Government Committee. And it does require the local government to approve or reject an application for wireless telecommunication facilities within 60 days. There's also some other requirements in this bill, but that's a big one. So this bill is the same as the one introduced in the interim committee. OIT did not take a position on this bill, and we have not, as it does not implicate OIT, but we are continuing to monitor this bill and keep you posted on that one. So the next bill is HB 251080. So this is the Wireless Telephone Infrastructure Deployment Incentives Bill. It has been assigned to the House Business Affairs and Labor Committee. This bill, what it does is it requires the CBO to implement a wireless telephone infrastructure deployment grant program. This is a similar program to what was implemented by HB 241336, the Broadband Deployment Grant Program. So this bill is different from the one that was originally introduced in the Cell Phone Interim Committee. OIT did oppose that bill. We are continuing to look into this bill, and we will let you know our position soon. It does impact HB 241336 and the high cost support mechanism funding. So we'll just continue to engage with sponsors on this bill and keep you posted. Next slide, please. So the Joint Technology Committee, OIT's Oversight Committee, is meeting weekly on Wednesdays at 8 a.m. You can listen to the audio of any of those meetings if you want to. The CBO has not been scheduled for an upcoming meeting, but we will keep you posted when we are. They did announce the members to the Joint Technology Committee for 2025. New members are Senator Rodriguez, Senator Marchman, and Representative Pascal. So returning members are Representative Titone, Representative Weinberg, and Senator Baisley. This year, Representative Titone will chair the committee and Senator Marchman will be the vice chair. And we are continuing to have our broadband legislative stakeholder weekly calls. These are Thursdays at 1 p.m. So if you haven't done so, please register for those and add them to your calendar. This is a great time to keep you updated as well as ask questions, answer questions, and we'd love to hear from you as well in these meetings. They are recorded, so if you can't attend them, you will receive a copy of a slide deck or any information shared as well as the recording. So definitely encourage you to register for those. And next slide, please. I did want to mention the CDOT Dig Once program. So this is a federal requirement required by the Mobile Now Act, and CDOT is looking to revamp this program, so they're asking for stakeholder feedback. So there's a survey out right now. It's open until January 31st, so do encourage you to participate that, and we thank you for your feedback. And I believe, Lauren, you can talk.
Okay, thanks, Paige. I'll take it. So a couple other things of note that we wanted you to be aware of. Our Broadband Ready community program has opened another application window. And just to remind you, a Broadband Community Ready certification is really a CBO's way of recognizing communities who have taken multiple steps to prepare for successful broadband deployment. There's a checklist, so really a step-by-step guide to everything you need to do to plan and prepare for broadband plans. And there's a list of resources as well for communities. And then on the website right now, the application is open. It is open until February 20th. So the link to the website is there. If you have any questions on it, we can field those here in just a moment. But I wanted to let you know that was open. And then the other update, we have the Office of Future of Work, who we work very closely with on digital equity and digital inclusion initiatives. They have some great news. They received a state digital equity capacity grant from the NTIA. They are receiving $12 million to fund several of their initiatives in their digital access plan. Really, this money will go toward the pre-work phase, so really the research, learning where best to spend the money, where the highest need is, and then an awareness campaign. So if you want to learn more, the link to the plan is here on the slides, and then the press release is also linked, which we will share the slides after, so you have access to all this information. So next, I'm going to hand it to Jed Carey to provide an update on the Universal Service Fund.
Yeah, I just wanted to, it's tangentially related to this group. I'm sure most of this group is familiar with the Universal Service Fund. It funds the four different groups. If you participate in CAF or RDOF, Lifeline for low-income folks, E-rate for schools and libraries, and then the Rural Healthcare Plan. A group, Consumers Research, brought this to the courts. Two circuits have held that the USF funding mechanism was constitutional. And then in the Fifth Circuit, which is out of Louisiana and the states down there, held that this was unconstitutional. The constitutional issue is congressional delegation. Basically, Congress can't delegate too much of their authority to the executive agencies like the FCC. And so it's kind of a novel argument. But what they said was the congressional delegation to the FCC, that might be constitutional, but they don't really like it. And then there was another delegation. The FCC, of course, uses USAC. If you're a telephone provider, you're familiar with USAC. USAC, what they do is they calculate the needs for the fund, the budget, and then they divvy up that budget to all the telephone providers on a per line basis of how much they owe as a fee every year to USAC, and then that fee is then you can use those funds then for those four programs. They use USAC kind of as a ministerial accounting function. It's not really an authority function. Everything is governed still by the FCC, but there is a delegation from the FCC to USAC. And they also held, well, that's not really unconstitutional either, but we don't really like that either. But they put those two together and they said, well, now it's unconstitutional, too much delegation. So that theory has never been promoted before. The Supreme Court has never ruled that way, but that's how the Fifth Circuit voted with the combo of those two. So the Colorado took a lead. As you might know, our Attorney General is fairly tech savvy and familiar with telecommunications, and we drafted a brief for this case, an amicus brief in support of USF being found constitutional. In other words, it should stay. So we drafted a brief. 22 different states signed on with us. There is another brief, primarily from some red states, that drafted another brief holding that it is still unconstitutional. There's about 5 states, I think, on that brief. So our brief didn't, you can read it. There's a link there. We'll send this out. It didn't get into the constitutional issues. It mostly focused on the harms to the state because we, put our state hat on and kind of went through some of the different programs and how it benefits the state and the harms that that's going to cause, especially to rural Colorado, if USF goes away. So that's what we drafted our brief on. Others signed on and then filed that. I don't think we'll see a decision until probably sometime, maybe in the summer, maybe in the fall of 2025. But you can read our brief when we send this slide deck out. I don't know if there's any questions.
All right.
All right.
Thanks, Judd. Appreciate it. All right. I'm going to hand it to, wrong way, Brandy, to give us updates on BEAD.
Great. Thanks, Lauren, and thanks, Judd and the HE's office for supporting us on that. So always excited about our contributions there. So BEAD is underway. If you guys remember, we are going to launch our second round, and it will be our final round. So looking for applicants to put their best foot forward on the final application. We published our round 2 addendum on January 10th, a couple weeks ago. This was a culmination of feedback that was received through our market sounding approach for what are ways we can make round 2 easier for you and just really tailor it to the strategy for round 2. Round 1 is a different strategy, round 2 is a different strategy. So we wanted to hear your thoughts. So thanks to people on the call who are reviewing this video. Thanks for all your feedback. It was very helpful. And there was also a combination of requesting programmatic waivers from the NTIA to make it easier for you all. The NTIA was very supportive of making it easier, which was great. And those are reflected in the round 2 addendum. And so hopefully you've had a lot of time with those. I know our round 2 applications, 30 days versus the 45 days for round 1. Couple of reasons for that. The BEAD guidelines have been out for a long time now, and the addendum's been out for a couple weeks ahead of the application. So hoping that ISPs and folks are interested in applying are taking the time to figure out what their next steps are. So there's a link in the slide deck. There's also obviously the document, the addendum's on our website if you want to take a look. So just some really good highlights I just want to cover. In our round 2 in the addendum, the 100% BSL coverage is not required for project areas. Applicants can identify the high-cost BSLs that they want to remove from their application without worrying about being on the hook for those BSLs. This broadband office is going to do our best to kind of ahead of the map being published, group high-cost BSLs, but still need your help on that if you can help us with it, because we did use that information from round 1 to group the high-cost BSLs. And that was a programmatic waiver from the NTIA, and one that we advocated for pretty fiercely. The low cost option was raised from $30 to $50. So, making it more feasible, some of these projects operationally. with the understanding that, these BSLs are in really expensive areas. So we brought that cost up. So hopefully that encourages more participation. The bid bond is not required. This was a program requirement. We put this in there for round one, but we did remove it. And we think it'll help remove some of those barriers that people let us know about. And the $20 million project cap was removed as well for the same reasons. And the application is not a binding agreement. So the grant agreement is a binding agreement. So we changed that language as well. And there's a process for low Earth orbital satellite applicants, so LEO, and capacity grants. And so the NTIA published their alternative technology policy after several months, and it's just in time for our addendum. So we made sure to include that language in there as well. So those that are going to bid in round two or a final round, they're using alternative technology or other last mile technology solutions have a little bit more guidance. Next slide. So similar as before for round one and all of our grant programs so far, especially capital projects funds, we're going to do an FAQ for round two, identical to the process for round one. We do get a lot of questions along the way, and we'll have our office hours as well for you to answer questions. So same process, we'll update the FAQ on a weekly basis so that applicants have the latest and greatest in terms of any points of clarification. And I encourage everybody to look at that. I think it's very helpful because you might have the same question that's already been asked. It's in that document, and we saw that quite a bit in round one, where a lot of folks were asking some of the similar questions. So you can save yourself a little bit of time in the application process if you take a look at the FAQs to see if we've already answered it. And of course, if you do have a question, we're always open ears. That's what the purpose is for those office hours. The status of round one, just a few points here. Round one, we will on our map, we started noticing preliminary selected applicants as of last week. We got all of those out. We can't publicly announce it. So for example, I know some of you are used to the CBO putting the list of everybody who was awarded or preliminary awarded. We can't do that. The NTIA won't let us. We think it's a good best practice, but obviously we're not in charge of the BEAD program and we had to stick to our requirements. But those that were notified, those that were part of that selected group were notified individually. We also talked about, we also have a process for the non-conflicted applications. So those folks that, submitted an application where there wasn't a conflict, those folks were awarded preliminary based on their application. We looked at deconflicted applicants, so we removed project areas based on our deconfliction process. So if somebody scored higher, somebody scored lower. We also looked at cost implications for the programs, for the project areas specifically in our deconfliction process. We also looked at, we had conversations with several ISPs about which project areas they could take on, which project areas that they were fine deferring to the round two map. So there was a lot of work, a lot of back and forth, and I appreciate your patience as we moved through that process. It was kind of messy, but we got through it, and we'll continue to work with ISPs. So just so you all know, you'll see that on the map when we publish it, there are going to be some locations that are under negotiation. We have clarification in that in our addendum, but these are basically locations that there's an applicant that we're working with, but we haven't finalized any sort of preliminary award. So those can still be bid on in round two, and we'll have more specifics on it in our our webinars when we host those. The round two map. It's coming soon. We are going to use version 6 of the FCC map. So we're not on version 5, we are on version 6, of course. So we are using that. And so we had to come up with a process with the NTIA on how to reflect those changes from the FCC map version 6 versus number 3 that we're on right now. And so we're removing BSLs that are rocks, stones, hay bales, barns. So we're going through that process right now. Round one results will be reflected on the map, whether they were preliminary awarded or they were partially awarded or they're under negotiation or they're still available for you to bid on. So those will still be on the map. we can't remove any locations on the map. So, we're using the process of color coding BSLs to communicate what's available and what's not. New BSLs under state and federal commitments will also be reflected on the map. So we're going through that as well. And like I said, there are office hours that we're gonna open up here pretty soon. I will tell you, and I just want to say this because I meant it. I wanted to give people more time with our map before the application. Unfortunately, we can't do that because of all of the negotiation behind the scenes. Pencils down for data is today, and we have a lot of work over the next couple days to get these BSLs updated for you to bid on. So you're not going to have as much time with the map as I had originally promised, but I promise the map will be accurate. We just need to take the time to make sure it's accurate, and we're kind of leaning into that versus kind of rushing through it and trying to publish something that's not complete. One thing about the project areas, and I will say, we are taking a more market-based approach for the map. So, that's the whole point of this round two. So we're giving the ISPs flexibility. In the map, you will see project areas, the project area boundaries. We didn't change those because that would take a lot of software development time to do that, and we don't have time to do that. So they're still there, they're still relevant, but we're giving ISPs a chance to pick the remaining locations. So that's where we are with BEAD. Next slide. All right. So there's a lot going on in the broadband office, legislation wise, obviously, policy wise with USF, and then also BEAD. So, that's where we are with things, and we're happy to give you guys another opportunity to bid on the BEAD program. A lot of our decisions were based on budget. 826 million. We're finding is not enough to get to universal coverage in this program, but we're going to give it our best shot. And I just appreciate the partnership. This is truly a public-private partnership, and I think it's going really well for the state. And as always, thanks for your participation. And I'll open it up. I'll hand it back to Lauren to open it up. So Lauren, I'll hand the mic to you. And thank you guys so much.
Thanks, Brandy. So yeah, like Brandy said, we'll take your questions now. You can raise your hand and just ask a question, or you can drop it into the chat and I will read it for the group to answer. So we'll take questions right now. Okay, so question in the chat. With the low cost plan increased to 50% in round two, will applicants who participated in round one be able to increase their low cost plan from 30 to 50? Yeah, Brandy or maybe
Yeah. So, Macy, what we're gonna do is we're gonna look at that. I don't have an answer for you right now. We've been really focused on round two, getting it up and lift off the ground. We'll provide some clarification in the Q&A if you're okay with that. Just want to make sure that we give you a thorough response on that. We did talk a little bit about it when we changed the policy, but let me get you specifics in the Q&A document so that you have it.
Okay, thanks, Brandy. All right, I don't see other questions at this time. If you have a long question, sometimes it is easier to raise your hand and ask it. I know it can take a while to type. All right, it looks like someone else had that same question. So noted, thank you. We'll make sure that goes into the FAQ. Okay, another question. In the Q&A document, can you also address the bid bond and if that will be needed for round one applications?
Yes, we will update that in our Q&A.
All right, any other questions? All right, if there aren't any other questions, or if you're still typing, I'll give you a second. We'll just wrap up. saying there's multiple ways to keep in touch with us, as you guys are probably aware, but just in case. We do have the website with everything you need to know about the Advanced Colorado Broadband Grant Program. There's our email for the grant program. You can email us any questions. We do have a monthly CBO newsletter that is a really great source of knowledge and updates on what's going on. So make sure you're signed up for that. We do have social media channels and then our CBO on the News webpage, which just posts important articles on what's going on in broadband in Colorado. One other, just ask if you have a second, we are doing a survey on these meetings. We want to make sure that you're getting the information you need, they're valuable use of your time. We're kind of reevaluating on how we need to provide information for our stakeholders. We want to make sure we're giving you what you need, when you need it, how you need it. So if you have a moment, fill out that very, very short survey and let us know how you like to receive your information. So if there are not any other questions, going once, going twice, we will say thank you very much for joining us. And the recording of this meeting and then the slide deck will be sent out here shortly. So thanks, everyone.